Tonight, we're asking questions about the future of President Biden's re-election campaign. His team says he will not step aside as more Democrats respectfully call for a different nominee. And joining me now is Associate Professor of Political Science at Wright State University, Dr. Lee Hanna. Thank you so much for being with us here tonight. Over the past few days, we've seen more and more Democrats asking for President Biden to step aside, including reports that some top Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and former President Obama have concerns. What is the impact of these concerns at this time where the other major party is trying to unite?
Yes, this is a real problem for President Biden. I believe another 11 House members and one senator have come out just today with statements about him. And, this not only shows that the party isn't unified around him, it's also really difficult if he does proceed with this campaign to really rely on some of those people as surrogates. If I've written a statement that says I no longer have faith in him as a candidate, that makes it pretty hard for me to campaign for him, down ballot if I'm a Democrat in the House or the Senate. And so, at the moment, there is still a lot of uncertainty about how this will all shake out. And it's hurting Biden on the fundraising front. It's hurting him on the advertising front and just the having a strong unified campaign front.
Yeah, Biden's team, however, at the same time is continuing to reassure everyone that he is staying in the race again today. So what do you think it would take if he's bound and determined to run for re-election? How can he reassure skeptical voters or even party members?
Yeah, this is the real challenge. I think they called for an early debate in hopes that they would force voters to see this as a choice and see this as maybe a referendum, even on former President Trump coming back into the White House. And instead, what we've seen is this turned into a referendum on Biden and on his age. And the challenge is every time he goes out for an appearance, there's two things we're looking at. It's not just the words he's saying and the message where kind of rating him on vigor and, aptitude and everything else. And so it is really difficult proceeding because with each of these events, he's going to continue to be graded on two different scales. But certainly if he does have strong performances, if he's back on the campaign trail vigorously, if some big donors change their tune and get behind him, leaders like Pelosi do, that will certainly help. But I think his campaign, to me, feels like it's on life support.
Yeah, probably only time for one more question here. We're talking about the Democratic convention coming up. A lot of talk about Vice President Kamala Harris being the nominee should he step aside. But then they're also talking about maybe there would be somebody else. What does that process even look like moving forward? Let's say if the president decides he will not run.
Yeah, so if he decides not to run, he can free his delegates to make their own decision about the candidate. And what I'm at least hearing now and just really reading the same news that everyone else is reading is that there's kind of some tension as to whether or not he should put his full weight and endorsement behind Harris. And then it would be more of a question of what she does about a VP pick. Or should we have some kind of mini primary in the next 3 or 4 weeks before that convention? And there's kind of pros and cons to both of these ways proceeding, were he to step away. But that's the challenge. What I'll say is the problem right now is that they know Biden doesn't look great in the polls. What they don't know is if they bring someone else in and if that process is ugly, does it even get worse? Because most of the Democrats coming out are worried about their own fortunes running on a presidential ticket with a nominee that's going to weigh them down.
All great points, and we do have weeks left to go before this election. A lot can happen. Dr. Lee Hanna, Associate Professor of Political Science at Wright State University, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Brooke.